So I hope you guys are enjoying the stream, but we'll go on into this next game now.
10 seconds remaining.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Premier League I'm sorry, I messed that up. I feel so bad about that. Alright, Premier League. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Premier League presentation. Bringing you guys a game between No Tidehunter and Absolute Legends. It is Game 2 of this Best of 3 series, and we are going to be looking at these two clashing it up. The first game went in favor of No Tidehunter. They were very aggressive, had great warding all across the map, made sure that they could play as aggressively as they needed to without actually risking themselves, based on the fact that they always knew where the enemies were. So that really worked out nicely for them, and well, moving on forward, we do see S4 drafting up. They do have first pick this time around, but are actually banning out the Wisp. They don't want to pick it up for themselves, and they do not at all want it in the hands of Absolute Legends, knowing that they can be very dynamic with that kind of a hero. So Nick's taking off the board as well as Magnus, but leaving open the Keeper Light. AL is going to pick that up, and my mistake, AL, of course, has the first pick here. Dire, throughout this entire Best of 3, will be having the first pick. So they didn't want Wisp to go for the first pick, and that just makes sense. So, pretty much taking that off the board, but they do leave open the Keeper, having to pick up instead the Darkseer. Possibly could go for the Rubik as well, because that's great to be able to steal up from the Coddle, or could go for something interesting like a Shadow Demon. The reason I say that is because when you pick up a Keeper Light this early, it's very common to pair it with the Phantom Lancer, and if you can pick up illusion-based heroes like Darkseer and Shadow Demon to disrupt that by actually turning it the other way around, by you just put out the disruption, wall of replica, and he starts actually proccing the Phantom Edge and the Juxtapose to get your own little army of Catman warriors there. So that can be pretty interesting, and it's pretty common, but it might be a little bit too much putting eggs in one basket. The fact is, Keeper Light does not necessarily designate that it's going to be a Phantom Lancer pick. There's plenty of different heroes you can draft with that. In fact, Keeper Light is just one of those heroes that can always set up your carry to successfully go on into the late game. Whether it's Chakra Magic infusing him constantly to keep him on the lane, if it's the Illuminates to harass back his opposition so that he is given a little bit more breathing room to farm. Maybe it's the fact that he has the Recall, which you can just be farming away, and then just like a Spectre, jump into the fight at a moment's notice. So you can just be right in the thick of things whenever they need you to be. So it doesn't really matter about your positioning with respect to the rest of the team in that sense. And that can be very powerful as well. But that's just one of those heroes that has a lot of potential in that sense. But we're going to see the Shadow Demon actually picked up for Absolute Legends along with the Phantom Lancer. So Phantom Lancer, Keeper Light, Shadow Demon, Tri-Lane Bottom. Where have you seen this before? It's very powerful, very aggressive. And the thing is, all you have to do, disruption them down to the ground, 2.5 seconds. That allows you at least a 2-second Illuminate, if not a 3, with good communication. And from there, that burst damage can be followed up upon with the Spirit Lance. Put a Soul Catcher on top of that, and that means that is going to be a 100-0 kill. Really effective, very dangerous, and even an expert Lone Druid offlaner might have a hard time with this. So Admiral Bulldog going to be picking up his signature Druid here, but we'll have to see how well he fares up against such a difficult lane. They probably see that come though, because as I was calling it, Keeper Light just so great to start things off and make sure that they have so much presence down on the bot lane. Alright, beyond that, we do see that No Tidehunter is kind of making their last decision whether or not they control the mid lane with a nice hero there. The one thing to mention is Darkseer and Lone Druid are both considered off-lane suicide lane heroes. Lone Druid, both of them can run in the jungle. Lone Druid could run on the solo mid. I've seen that a few times. Same with the Darkseer, actually. So there's some flexibility in that, but the one important thing to take away from it is that they both can't run on the suicide. One of them will run in the jungle or the mid, and we'll kind of go from there and try to see what they can come out with. But No Tidehunter are comfortable with this Lone Druid draft going in and kind of trying to go up against all odds, and we'll have to see how they fare for it. They're going to have to pick up a carry though, presumably a cleave-oriented one, an AoE-oriented one. We see the Sven come out. But now we have seen supportive Svens here and there. I don't think it's something that Ake plays, but it could be effective there. Otherwise, Loda's just going to pick up the Sven and try to get some really early strength to make sure his ultimate can just wail away at that PL and all his illusions, because the one thing about PL is that his damage potential is outrageous. It's actually the highest in the game if he's maxed out on his illusions. If he has all the illusions on the board and they're uncontested, not dropped down in an AoE sense, then they're just going to be able to wreak havoc and do all the damage in the world, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. But they're very fragile. They take tons of bonus damage, and from there you can look at grouping them all together with a vacuum, getting a good wall of replica or a storm bolt on top of that, and just use the Great Cleave to just hammer away at them, drop them all down until there is only one remaining. And from there, he's relatively easy to take down by himself. So that's the intention there. Pretty good draft there. The only other option that I was considering was the gyrocopter with that flat cannon potential. We saw how it worked out very well last game, but it seems to not be their current intention. Now, I say current because Ake actually has run a supportive gyrocopter before, so they could still go for Sven and gyrocopter landing together and having tons of mid to late game AoE potential. So that can be very powerful there, and I'm curious to see how it'll work out for them. But in the meantime, it looks like we're good as far as latency goes, and you guys can let us know. There's something with the bit rates where it's pretty much some people will have some latency in some parts and some won't, but hopefully we'll be able to avoid that as best as possible. As far as the bans coming out, Absolute Legends taking off the board the Night Stalker, the Tinker, taking out some of the more powerful mid heroes that can really cause a little bit more grief to the Phantom Lancer. If you get that Crippling Fear on him, no Doppelwalk for you, they can just burst him down, and no problem at all until the Defeasal Blade comes online. Tinker with that laser can make sure that he's not going to be able to right click, and if you can't right click, then you're not going to be able to actually get those procs off. And finally, the March of Machines on Tinker, AoEing down consistently and constantly, making sure that you can actually just make it so that the floor is lava, and walking on through it will just gradually decay on down your PL illusions until they're nothing but dust. So, pretty much with that, pretty good bans coming on through, but No Timer actually also taking out the Queen of Pain and the Bounty Hunter. Curious to see why the Queen of Pain was that much of a threat in their minds, but it's still one of those more mobile heroes that can control runes very nicely, and if she has extra mana to boot with that Chakra Magic ranked up early, it could be very devastating. So, just something to keep in mind. But I don't know if it would have been, I mean, they just want to take on good mids, and so they're going to take the co-op off the board. The Tinker already out, Night Stalker as well. And so that kind of does mean that the top tier mid heroes are dwindling down to maybe like, you can show them on one hand. It's just like there's some options here and there, but as far as what they're going to be actually picking up here, I'm not so sure. So I could definitely see a gyrocopter pick coming on through since AL did decide not to ban it out. The Leshrac also taken out here. So they might go for, AL might be going for the Lina, but they already have the Keeper Light to set it up, so I kind of detract that statement a little bit. The disruption into Light Strike Ray is great, but if you already have a Keeper Light, the mid Lina isn't very common, and it's just not going to be something that you want to lane out in that regard. So we'll have to see what they're going to be picking up, but as far as my prediction, Absolute Legends is still going to be looking for something like a Windrunner on the off lane, just to try and survive here and there. We are also going to be looking for more aggressive mid. The Storm was very effective last time around, but I wouldn't be surprised to see actually a Rubik mid or a No Tidehunter picking up a support Rubik, both of them being great options because, again, stealing out those abilities can really turn the tide of battle. So the Windrunner does get banned out. Absolute Legends is not going to have that option there, and that's going to be kind of hindering them in what they intend to bring about on the mid lane. But we'll have to see. There's still a lot that can really coincide with this team lineup, but they need a little bit of early aggression. They need a little bit of something durable, something that can initiate with. They get the Brewmaster. So Brewmaster having that primal split potential, the long duration, slow of attack speed and movement speed with the clap, he is able to jump in on the front line of things and really wreak havoc. He can actually do some damage to the Darkseer's Wall of Replica Illusions with his Wind Panda's Dispel Magic, and along with that, just stunning out over and over either the Lone Druid or the Sven, whoever's not BKB'd up at the time, will really help them out. In fact, really, Brewmaster going up against Lone Druid is going to be pretty favorable for them in the sense that Lone Druid will never go for a BKB. There's not enough purpose for it because the bear is half your damage. So with that, Brewmaster has a lot of potential to control the fight and really manipulate how things are going to go on through. But speaking of that, Disruptor going to come on out, and that is, if we're looking at control, there's hardly anyone better. The Disruptor putting in the kinetic static, if they're vacuumed on into that, totally screwed over. And now we just have to see for the mid. I'd love to see something really weird like a Pudge or something, but it's really hard to say. They want something a little or AoE oriented. They're so dedicated to that lineup. The Enigma technically could be an option, but they would just be running another jungle offlane type guy, and I don't think that's what they intend to do. So we'll see, but I think the Gyrocopter would be most appropriate for what they're looking at here. And finally, the Absolute Legends, now that they have their mid, they have their defensive tri-lane, they have to look at who they're going to be sending out on the offlane, if not the jungle. Nature's Prophet still on the board, pretty good option, and since they have the recall and with the global teleport, you can stay very mobile and active. But Absolute Legends trying to find and make sure they, since this is their last selection, that they're counterpicking as intricately as possible. They're seeing this Disruptor, they're knowing that he has the potential to throw a Nature's Prophet back if he tries to teleport in with that glimpse, so that is not really as much of an option for what they want to accomplish, and might be throwing a little bit of wrench in the works if that was something they were planning. So AL was using the Nature Prophet to some pretty good effect, but it just, the way that they're looking at it now, I don't think Miggle really wants to go into a Disruptor pick with that NP. What to go with Absolute Legends to finish this on out? They know that there's a lot of damage coming out, and they're actually going to go with the Clockwork. So Clockwork is a great offlane hero. It's not seen as much in some teams. It's pretty much, there are some teams that pick Clockwork all the time, some teams that pick Clockwork in specific circumstances, and the rest of them never pick him at all. 100% just don't even touch the guy. And so that makes it very, very interesting here. We see No Tide finishing off with Ake once again on the Chen. Worked so great last time. Let's do it. Let's see what they can accomplish with it. As far as lanes go, we're looking at the Sven Disruptor up top, Chen in the Radiant, oh sorry, not on top, it's Radiant. Sven Disruptor down on bottom, Chen in the Radiant jungle, Lone Druid up on the off lane, and Darkseer in the mid. S4 picking that up there, going to be doing pretty well against the Brewmaster, not doing too hard one way or another. But as far as this Clockwork pick, it's going to be pretty interesting. Miggle probably going to go for Cogs really early to try to push the opposition away here. One big thing about this is if he can Cogs while he sees the Stormbolt in the air, he can always push Loda back. He won't have to worry about Loda's right clicks, and that of the Chen creeps in general, though they can kind of flank around to the side. Let's just say that he puts down the Cogs right here. Then the Chen creeps can just kind of swoop on through and be ready and raring to go for whenever he kind of passes the line of scrimmage to try to get that disable off. So there are ways to make that interaction work, but it'll be interesting one way or another. Okay, so we do see as far as items go that we are going to be looking at a couple sentries up for Ake and Keeper Light. We don't see any Invis heroes picked up today. I mean, yeah, there is the Doppelwalk on the Unicorn, and that will be relevant, but beyond that, it's like we haven't seen all this Clink's Nyx Assassin stuff. I know Nyx has been banned out multiple times over, so a lot of my stuff is self-defeating, but a Bounty Hunter was banned, not picked up in the early phases. The Clinks wasn't prioritized by these guys here. It's interesting that every team has their own drafting styles, and where we see 2 or 3 Invis heroes all picked up on one team, sometimes in this case we see barely one at all. The Phantom Lancer, who doesn't rely on it all that much after the Diffusal Blade. I mean, when the Diffusal Blade comes out, it helps out a ton, but until then, it's like one way or another, whatever. Now we do see right off the bat Admiral Bulldog with a single tango on himself with double Stout Shield on the bear. He is raring to go to try to pull this lane as aggressively as possible. He's trying to aggro up the creeps, get their attention, and bring them back to a position where he can bring them to a nice fit creequilibrium that he can get experience from. And that's what he's going to accomplish. There's some nice blocking here. And actually they can actually disrupt this bear so that they lose the aggro, but they do have to do it at the right time. I think they're trying to get the right amount of damage in and blocking off the creeps to try to, just make sure that they don't keep their focus, forcing the bear to come back and allowing them to put more right clicks on in. So it's kind of the only action that's going on the screen right now. And he's actually is he gonna block off? He's gonna block off that creep spawn just because he can. They're going to really, Rise and Mania desperately trying to get these creep waves to be denied on out, but what it is actually accomplishing here is by going back and forth, he's stacking up these creeps together. So even if he does get disruption and lose half his bear's life, now there's 2 creep waves bundled up here. There is a Unicorn farming up under tower, taking tons of damage from the creeps, and finally, it's going to mean that the lane will inevitably push down onto the top lane without too much benefit to the attempt to zone him. So that's going to be really, really interesting. Mid lane, interactions between S4 and Miracle. Miracle taking a lot of damage from that Ion Shell. That bear actually dropping low as well. Lone Druid having that summon back in 22 seconds. He's pretty much done with it. The Illuminate comes on through, but it actually does finish it. Nice pickoff for Mania, getting 100 free gold for himself. That's pretty dandy for a support. Going to move in for a Flying Courier in no time at all. So good timing for the Illuminate. Does finish it off, and Emerald Bulldog's a little sore about that, but he'll just pick up the new bear in just a moment anyways and kind of proceed on through. But look at this creep wave. One right here, half of one right here, and then the one that's already on the wave itself. So this is going to push down on the tower pretty hardcore, and they're actually going to probably have to turn it into a direct push, the Illuminate. He's still playing around with this thing. It's so weird what he does, but he does it in such a skillful way with so much experience that it just works out. Trying to do a final pull to delay the inevitable push on the tower to give him all this experience he's been waiting for. But from there, we do see that the 2-minute rune will be spawning for the mid lane here, and not too much to cover up on the bottom lane. And Loda is able to pick up 12 last hits for himself. The top rune spawn is going to give that invisibility. We do see S4 doing tons of Ion Shell damage here. The clap already gone on through. Miracle has taken a few hits and can't really contest this rune with the surge that can just hop off at any time. So Miracle walking away, S4 bottling up and going to be able to control this invis nicely. Back up on top, Unicorn trying to do some harassment here, but it's still going to be the experience going the way of Lone Druid, and that's really what he's been looking for all game long. And I gotta say, there was a lot actually going the other way around at the same time. Like, the Keeper Light Mania was able to get a ton, not only killing the bear, but a bunch of neutral camps with the manipulation of the aggro that was kind of going on up top. But now we do see Rise smoking up behind him and trying to get close the distance on Arrow Bulldog, following up this disruption with Illuminate. This is a Soul Catcher, tons of damage, a couple right clicks should finish the job, and yeah, it's going to be an easy first blood. Score the Phantom Lancer, Unicorn picking that up and getting some nice easy gold to start things off. So he only has right now 8 CS, had a really rough time CSing under tower, but now picking up that first blood is going to help him out quite a bit, moving in towards 350 GPM now. So in the meantime, we do actually check out EGM doing some stacks, doing some pulls, trying to get some neutral experience of his own. But right now, we actually see these supports. What's been accomplished, whether on the top jungle or down on bottom, is that a lot of the experience was taken away from the Phantom Lancer, but a lot of the experience was also given to those supports. Keeper Light sitting at 160, Shadow Demon at 150, Chen and Disruptor sitting at 200 plus. All of them are in such a great spot where, see Cogs, to block out that position. But anyways, it's just putting them in a spot where now these supports are actually going to get some real legit levels, and it's going to be involving more team fights more actively, because the supports aren't going to be level 3 running around with 500 hit points and getting burned down really, really quickly. No, they're going to be willing to actually engage on things, playing a little bit more aggressively and kind of changing up their style a little bit. It's like when a Vengeful Spirit gets some early levels. She increases her range of initiation. She's able to be more up in the fray because of her stat gain. So that's kind of what we're going to start seeing because of the experience that's inevitably gone through for Mania and for Rise, as well as the supports down bottom. Speaking of, putting out some damage on the tower, immediately popping off that fortification. Nigel wants to try to do something here, but he's only level 2 compared to Lone Druid sitting at level 3.5. So he has actually had a much harder time with the zoning that's been going on through, and there's really only so much he can do. He's just going to end up watching the tower as EGM zones him away so that the deny will not come on through. So this tower dropping rapidly, the Centaur can tank as necessary, and from there this tower should be easy pickings for the Radiant in general. Actually going to give the gold across the board to their team, so that's going to set them up nicely. No Tidehunter going to move in with that extra bit of gold under their belts, and Chen will be picking up a mechanism in no time at all, presumably. Basilia is still active. They want to go for more. Miguel is going to do a little bit of counter push, but anytime he gets in range of the Stormbolt, he's going to have a bad time, and Glim's pulling him back in. They're going to go through. That Stormbolt has no mana available. Gets right-clicked on down. So that is going to be Sven picking up a kill for himself and kind of making up for the first blood kill that happened down up on the top lane, making more out of it in general. And we do see a lot of damage coming on Admiral Bulldog. He did get Disruption and Soul Catchered, so Unicorn falling through that rank 3 lance sets up a nice kill. S4 creep skipping up on the mid lane. We do see a transition in from Mania. Can do a rank 1 Illuminate, but it's not going to be enough to deter him from what has been going on thus far.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
You see this tier 2 taking a lot of hits, and Miguel still getting zoned on out enough that it looks like that is going to fall as well, 100% to Sven, and that's plenty of gold on the board for them. Miracle has the opportunity to Primal Split, but knows that the Surge can pretty much just disregard that entire notion, and there's really not too much opportunity to go on forward from here. I really like that S4 is playing this aggressively with his Ion Shell. He has rank 4, he can just throw it out constantly, dive underneath towers, and actually come out on top for it. We see the Brewmaster falling behind in CS, 26 compared to S4's 49. Getting more CS than any of the carries, anything at all. He's just on top, on the ball. I'm curious if he even transitioned over to an easy camp or something to pad those stats a little bit. I'm not sure, but either way, he's in a good spot here. We do see Brewmaster going for a actually pretty standard build, 4-0-0-1, just going for many stats to work with so that you don't have to necessarily rush out that drum ASAP in order to have the stats to work with on the lane. Darkseer picking up a haste. Got to go fast, got to keep that speed rolling, and we do see Rise flanking up on Admiral Bulldog. He just hit level 4, but it's not really going to be a prolonged celebration in that regard because he's just going to get dropped real quick. We do see TP coming in from S4. They are going to try to keep him. Okay, the illusion finishes the job, and they walk away from there. Actually, Rise had some good Shadow Poison there, so probably would have finished him off either way, but S4 is going to get some revenge. Doesn't he have to surge out because he does have that haste, and Rise just playing games for the moment, but he will inevitably fall. So that is a nice little pick off. We look at the KDA and we see 3-0-0 for the Phantom Lancer, but you got to keep in mind that was a last hit on the tower for Sven, as well as a kill on the tower in general for the Radiant, while all their towers still stand. So that means that they're going to have an advantage across the board, and when we look at the GPM, that is expressed wholeheartedly with these numbers. 470 for the Sven, 430 for Unicorn, not bad at all, but comparatively speaking, he's just a little bit behind the Sven. But he scales more. The 4.2 agi gain, the potential when he gets some big levels to really do a lot with what he wants to, it makes it so that when he goes into late game, Loda is going to have some big damage to be able to compete with him, and that's obviously what he's looking for. Starting off with the drum for some mobility. Surprised he's not putting any points on the Warcry at all. At least the movement speed boost seems to be relevant, but just his choice of skilling it. Oh, nice glimpse. Miracle, wasting out that TP and sending right back up to home. So he's going to have a long walk of shame heading back on through as S4 just keeps on clearing out this wave and dropping the tower down to 400. That is giving them an opening to just put that pressure out. Ake sitting around with a Dark Troll Summoner could do some damage here, but in the interim, we're going to see that the Illuminate will come out from the Keeper Light to try to counter push as best they can. Bulldog back up on top, but he has been kind of outclassed here, seeing that he has dropped down for the 3rd time now. It's just very difficult for him to hold the line, and although the creeps are in a nice position here for the moment, he's going to need some help, and that's where S4 comes in. Flanking on through, popping off Invis to pose a little bit of a distraction for Rise, and in the end, they just know that he's going to be in that relative area, and that the Unicorn has to play a little more conservatively. Looking at 46 CS, that's going to be pretty much where he needs to be at as he moves on forward, but EGM holding up on the mid lane. Looks like he's got Arcanes finished up and moving in towards a mechanism. After that, no. It looks like Chen will have the mech and I guess the magic wand for the disruptor. As for closing in on Unicorn, not really too much happening at the moment, but really want to try to get some big initiation. They start off with that Iron Shell. The Doppelwalk is 15% movement speed, but it's not going to be enough to actually fully get away. He wants to be at least under tower before he makes his full escape. But as for not having any of that, we'll just try to put that pressure out, get moving towards his presumably Hood of Defiance and Pipe of Insight, and then just kind of proceed on through from there. They really need to get that pipe up ASAP, and the way that he's been playing throughout this mid lane means that that's going to be a very easy option for him. Setting up nicely, they will be able to get that pipe. The big important thing there is not only pushing up on towers where they can actually prevent full Illuminate damage through the pipe, but also when they're trying to team fight. And when the Wall of Replica comes on through, they need to follow that up with a pipe of Insight. Protect all those illusions from that damage, or they're going to have a rough time of things. They do TP on mid lane. There is a pick off onto Brewmaster. Will he get that split off? He does not. He gets burned down too much, and they actually do pop up a little glimpse on Rise, deterring him for the moment, and they will be able to burn him down. Disruption is down for 12 seconds. Rise not ranking it means that he will not have that cooldown available, and just a little quick slap in the face as he does get dropped down in the end. So just really nice movement there, finding the kinetic field, static storm on top of the Brewmaster that after the Stormbolt came out, and possibly an ensnare, just kind of shows that they are coordinating where they want to cage those pandas, make sure the Primal Split is not an option. We do see Miggle picking up a little bit more experience for himself, but it's not shown very much relevance thus far. Throwing out a couple of flares here and there, he'll have a lot of potential to scout out with those flares, as well as just put out some burst magic damage. AoE clock hooks in. They're not under the tower, but they still put him in the cogs, as we're going to take a lot of damage here. Vacuum's on out, so it will get the kill on the Miggle, but in the end, I think the Brewmaster, oh my gosh, is he going to survive? Is he going to get Testa-faced away? No, he gets tornadoed up for the moment, and they should be able to finish him off, no problem. Rocket Flare to take the kill as buyback from Miggle. No hook shot available, but they're just closing the distance on Ake. However, if the Chen had Test of Faith, I'm not sure if the tornado dispels that or not, but if he had been able to get out of there because of Test of Faith, that would have been really cool. I'll have to look up more interactions on that, but in the meantime, looks like the ensnare and the center clap is going to try to deter them as best they can. No Drunken Haze means Ake can still stay on the run. The hookshot not going to be available for a long time. With the stun, he's actually going to walk away from this. So Ake just playing that Chen very aggressively, and now they're actually going to try to pull them back. The Centaur doing so much damage, glimpsing him back into a very difficult position. Illuminate hitting on nothing. Loda has that stun coming up, 3 seconds. They don't need it. Static Storm sufficient, and they bring him down. So that was just a little bit too much of pursuit coming out from the Brewmaster. Miracle really wanted to close the distance and get that kill, and instead walks away and drops down to the grave again. So looking at the KDA of Panda, that's 0, 2, and 1 with only 1 ultimate popped. He usually is unkillable during that ultimate, especially at low levels when they don't do that much damage to him, but that's not really what we've been seeing. So Emerald Bulldog farming up here is going to get picked off by Rise, but they need Unicorn nearby. Using the Invis Rune, getting the opportunity to close the distance, and they're close enough here. The Demonic Purge is set up. He does actually try to dodge out a little with his true form, but it won't happen. He's going to get locked down, and that's just going to be more kills on the board. Looking at the gold, it is going to even out, kind of just settle down at about 7k advantage, and the experience is kind of back and forth. It's currently at 2,500, and that's understandable based on all the kills that have gone really in every odd different direction. Lone Druid is still getting some experience here and there, but it's not what he would prefer. Sitting at level 7 compared to the solo experience of level 10, he definitely is more familiar with playing from a good position rather than when he's coming in from behind. So maybe transitioning down towards the bottom lane or something would do him a little good to try to pull him back to where he needs to be. But in the meantime, Loda is farming up nicely. Moving in towards 5,300, and he is actually going to be able to dish out quite a bit of damage with this BKB, with the Greater Cleave going to be maxed out in no time. It really is setting them up to really dish out all the damage they need to, as long as they get the setup from S4, which seems to be the case, as he's only 300 gold away from that Pipe of Insight. When you get a Pipe of Insight before Keeper Light even maxes his Illuminate, you know you're doing pretty good. So that's going to be really, really well set to team fight aggressively and not have to concern themselves too much with a lot of those issues. Now we do see on the vision that they are smoked up, and even if they had an Observer Ward here, it wouldn't be a factor. Same with this Rocket Flare. They're just going to flank in on towards the mid lane, and they're not going to be revealed until they kind of bypass this line here. Miracle coming up to meet them. They get the stun out to burn him down, and with this beautiful wall vacuum and the kinetic static, they're going to be able to bring down every single one of them. So that is a 3-for-0 spree, just completely perfectly initiating. That smoke gank was not whatsoever expected from Absolute Legends, and no Tidehunter take a really, really clean lead in this game here. They still have to be concerned with Unicorn farming away, but he is only sitting at 73 last hits. He's been inhibited a decent amount, not rushing for that Diffusal Blade, and he is dustable and therefore killable. So that is definitely something they can look into in the near future as they try to gain control, more and more control of the enemy's territory.
Tower is under attack.
So pushing in on the mid lane, they're going to be able to use these creeps. Even if it's just a little bit of HP regen or an attack speed aura, they have the potential to just keep on battering away with their health bars. 1400 HP plus some decent... Oh my gosh, Migla initiating on the creeps though. Locking in all three of them, but getting instead static on up, burned on down. Not worth it at all to hook onto those guys. Satyrs and Centaur just welcoming the brawl, and they go on to just turn around and fight it on out. So that is just a complete kind of a throwing away his life. Miggle jumping on in. He would love to be more durable right now. Would love to have at least a buckler, if not the full mech, but that's not what's been in the cards. He's just been so far shut down on the bot lane, so that even though Admiral Bulldog had his share of trouble, that it shows that Miggle really fared poorly up on down on bottom as well. That pipe out really set them up to make sure that the Illuminate wouldn't be able to put out the damage pressure that the Keeper Light would have preferred, and they easily just could pretty much counter-initiate, push down the tier 2, and really not have enough care in the world. Miracle taking some damage from the Orb of Venom Bear, but just making sure he can not have to worry about the tower too much. Now they are trying to dive on through. EGM can get some vision if he wants to commit some more cooldowns, but they don't want to dive in underneath a tower that can be defensively TP'd to. Unicorn putting pressure down at bottom. S4 actually in a bad spot. Vacuums with the Wall of Replica, and is going to deter them for the moment. They don't want to try to pursue under tower. Again, TP's so really powerful underneath the tower, and he does actually have one of his own Phantom Lancers to work away. As far as the Brewmaster is concerned, though, Miracle is caught out up on top. They finally find him out in the trees, close the distance, and bring him down. So Phantom Edge is still only at rank 1. Not really too much opportunity for the Illusions to spawn Illusions, but closing in on S4, they're finally going to get the skill they've been looking for all this entire time. And Unicorn taking some damage from the tower, but will survive. No, glimpse back in. He's in a terrible spot, and he's going to get earned up and killed. So really good transition from EGM, and they're going to just turn this into at least a 1 kill, if not 2. Trying to find one person out. Rise TPing on the way, but Keeper Light and Mania getting closed on in and will inevitably fall. Not sure about the connect field, but that doesn't really matter. Stun comes on through. No juking here. I think it provides some clear vision. I think that was the intention there. So finishing that up, they get the pick off there, and meanwhile up on top, Admiral Bulldog sitting at level 9 means he has the Demolish passive as well as rank 1 Battle Cry, allowing him and Chen to just batter down that tower, the demolition squad as it were. Able to just say, okay, you guys team fight down there, really make an effective engage and make the best out of the worst situation down on the dived bottom tower, and from there they can just use those specific demolition crew to bring down the towers quickly. Ake in a bad spot. Not even sure why he committed the Hand of God. It just wasn't going to happen, but I guess you might as well. And the creeps are going to run for the hills, though I don't think that... they're going to be left alone. This is something that they could have actually tried to follow up on with the clap and so on and so forth. There's a lot of HP that they have going on, but bringing down 1 or 2 Chen creeps can really set a hero like Chen, and Ake specifically playing him behind. It's just kind of one of those things where if he does have to go through his jungle and possess creeps over and over, and find out centaurs and so on forth in the jungle, freaking mud golems. Anyway, if he has to do that, then there's going to be less for Loda to farm. He's farming away with his Great Cleave, trying to go on through the jungle, and every single creep that is possessed is going to really, really hurt the potential for Loda to actually stay on top as far as the farm goes. He's not really given a run for his money right now, as he's really, really on top of Unicorn. 515 gold per minute compared to 390. But Phantom Lancer is still well on his way to his Diffusal Blade, and he'll be able to dish out much, much more damage now that he is level 11 and with that Diffusal. Speaking of, Unicorn could be looking to farm up the jungle a little bit more. Again, Phantom Edge rank 2 is enough to self-propagate those illusions and actually try to create a little bit of a brawling squad throughout the jungle. Keep that damage rolling. Get the farm continued, but it looks like S4 is just going to hold the line on the bottom tower, deny it out, despite the siege creep. Really, really... it's not extremely good play or anything like that. It's just good, conservative, methodical play. I think is the best word to say. It's just making sure that you cover all your bases, cross the T's and dot the I's. But we do see this engage here, popping in. Neither one of them caught in the kinetic static. Instead, the Primal Split goes on through. A lot of damage going into EGM, but he gets Test of Faith away. Ake, the new target of choice, gets Tornado up for the moment. Instead, turning over to Loda, who pops off the God Strength. Big damage coming on out. Sure, with the BKB up, there's nothing they can do. Killing the Fire Panda, turning around to the next target of choice, but they're actually a little bit distracted. Looking for Megal, not going to find him. Find instead Miracle, who's out of mana and out of luck. There's really no chance for him to get out of this, and with that high roll in the Test of Faith, as well as the Storm Bolts, he is completely locked down here. Looking in to close the distance on the mid lane. Big damage coming in without that Pipe of Insight active, but Darkseer is still raring to go and wants to keep this pressure up on the mid lane. Loda has that Warcry as well. 16 armor, nothing to sneeze at, and that is definitely going to help them to push up on this tower. Inevitably forced back, though. The Illuminates will just keep on pounding away relentlessly, and the bear will just get a couple more chops before getting dropped down himself. So, with all that, that was actually pretty favorable for them, forcing out their big teamfight ultimate, the Primal Split, and still coming out on top. We see the, oh my gosh, the Disruptor is actually sitting at 5-0 and 6. Wow, EGM is actually doing really, really nicely right now. He has a Vladimir's offering, some good durability with the Magic Wand and Urn. He's sitting at 1k HP. He has 8 armor, providing some decent amount of physical damage mitigation. And from there, he will actually be able to take quite a bit as long as the Pipe and the Mech are actually used in the team fights, not to mention the Hand of God. So this isn't one of those heroes that has to worry about getting picked off left and right like we generally see Disruptors are. He is just going to be roaming on around and finding a good position to actually put himself in the right spot at the right time to be aggressive. And the only thing he really has to worry about is his Clockwork's initiation, which is a little bit lackluster, sitting at only rank 1. You see the range on that. It's not up at the 2500. He doesn't have that much range of presence for it, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. Ascomata's coming out in the Sven. Pretty common to follow through after that BKB is up, because it pretty much means that with Warcry active and BKB going on through, the amplification of damage, the 30% increase received, won't be that big of a threat. You'll have so much armor, you'll have your lifesteal, and you'll be immune to magic, and you'll just be wailing away and not with a care in the world. Illuminate comes on through. There'll be actually a delayed pipe. Might have been a bit of a mistake there. S4 popping that after the pipe hit. That means the creep wave has been demolished, and they actually popped off that 1 minute cooldown, so they're not going to really have that available. Lone Druid wailing away at the tower, and there comes that Illuminate I was talking about, but hitting on nothing. Nice movement from them. Now, trying to find somebody out of position. They pop off the God Strength. They want to go for this Blinding Light. Missing a couple times the tower. BKB popped off just to stay on top of it, but with this fortification, it will hold the line for the moment. Now, finishing off the tower, they'll fall back from here. Maybe look for Roche, just so they have control of the map, but it's really, really hard to say. They're still going for it. They have the lifesteal. They have the damage. They did commit the BKB, though. 8-second BKB will be back up in 55 seconds, but for now, the bear falling. Miracle jumping on in. Doesn't have enough for Primal Split. Why'd he go in there without the split? Defensively disrupted. Static field going down. EGM doing some damage to Miggle. He will be dropped as well as Miracle. Nice wall on top of things. Unicorn, next target. Dusted. Sentry trying to bring him down. Glimpse back on into his demise. There's no way he's getting out of that. Tries to take Loda with him. He does. Loda and Unicorn both fall. The buyback popped off by the Phantom Lancer, but the Lone Druid Bear still wailing away. He does have the cooldown to pop it off and bring it back to life. So we do see that reanimation occurring in just this very second, but Unicorn back in the fray, trying to make something happen. The Surge, the Diffusal on the Surge. Really nice timing from Unicorn, but he's trapped in by the Kinetic. Test of Faith away. Lone Druid survives. Really nice movement between the Chen, the Darkseer, and, of course, Lone Druid himself. So Admiral Bulldog, Ake, and S4 just buddy together, keeping the Lone Druid alive. So I really did like that purge on the Surge with the Diffusal Blade of Unicorn, but it just wasn't enough. So now they're going to try to pursue on through for this Roche, and they might be able to take it, but that's only because of Wall Rucka being on cooldown, as well as technically the Pipe for the moment. So we'll have to see if they have the damage output here. They don't have the Drunken Haze, and that means Roche will be able to bash up quite a bit. And so they're going to have to commit all 5 to this position. Now it's going to be the Darkseer trying to scout things out. The one thing I'd say is advantageous for Absolute Legends here is, actually they're going to go on S4 a little bit, but the real big advantage is this vision they have. Putting up this ward here, just look at Dire Vision in general. They have full understanding of S4's position, the 2 coming on in, EGM and Admiral Bulldog. They know about them, and they're about to learn about Loda. So they know what's going on, and the worst case scenario is they put in a few free punches on Roche, and that could be something that No Tidehunter wants to capitalize on. But just hitting them where it hurts, the Illuminate damage going across, and they're just going to disengage from there. As Miggle farms up very, very out-positioned. I gotta say, like, if he keeps on going down to the creep wave, he's just completely locked down. So they illuminate from the high ground. Here comes damage onto Roche, and it looks like it's going to be a free Aegis Immortal Roshan. Like I said, that's the one thing that if you give a few free hits to Roche, they'll just walk in and take it themselves. So it was a little bit of a gambit, trying to hope that they wouldn't notice it, but in the end, No Tidehunter not going to fall for that. Move on in to take it for themselves. Think up on the Brewmaster. Let's look at items in general. We do have Blade Mail up on Shen. Don't see that every day, but I can see where it would be very beneficial. Along with that, we also have the Drum up on the... actually, yeah, on the Phantom Lancer. It was the first thing he bought after Boots and Tranquils. And from there, we see that there is going to be not too much else. The Vladimirs I've already talked about. I've talked about just about everything. So the Force Staff on Keeper Light and the Blink Dagger on the Brewmaster are the only 2 new things. And if they can initiate nicely with a Clockwork ulti, long range, catching them off guard, and they've followed up with a Blink and a Force Staff, then they are going to be sitting in a really, really good position to initiate and pick apart a fight. Wow, if I did that sentence at all. Pick apart the fight. Yeah. Pick the fight apart. I guess either way will work. Either way, EGM, however, has been on the ball with his kinetic static, and combining those 2 together, those fields, those storms, making sure that they can silence up at least 2 individuals from Absolute Legends, the Force Staff will only help so much. And now we see Mania actually caught out in a bad spot, will not be able to Force Staff through just yet. Instead, vacuum back in, Rise in a bad spot as well, but the initiation comes through the glimpse, trying to get Mania off guard, but their focus is on the tower. Here comes the initiation, Miracle popping off the split. It is rank 2, Miggle soloing out Ake, doing a lot of damage here. EGM will take a fall, loaded with that BKB though, so much damage going across, burning down Miggle with one quick sweep of his mighty sword, and close it in on these racks to finish the job. Stunned up a bit by the bear, but there's only 1 remaining. He is going to blink out that split. Nice usage of that timing by Miracle, but it's only going to buy him a little bit of time, as these racks will inevitably fall. And from there, the game should be easily in the hands of No Tidehunter, taking the game, taking this match, this best of 3 series, into 2-0 sweep. So we'll see if there's anything Absolute Legends can do, but with the melee and range down on bottom and cleaning up this belatedly brought down ranged racks on the bottom mid lane here, it's not going to be that big of a deal one way or another. Shiva's guard up on Darkseer. That is just a lot of magic damage in an AoE. That is just ridiculous. Because they have the Sven Cleave, they have the vacuum pulling together, they have the way to lock them in and make sure there's nowhere that they're going to be able to go. And on top of that, the Wall of Replica is closing in on rank 3. So Shiva's is just a little bit extra salt on the wound. And nice actual Force Staff by Mania, popping off the Force before the kinetic field was able to permeate on through and actually substantiate itself. But from there, that is Mega Creeps. That is going to be pretty much the conclusion of the game, and just about everybody knows it now. So, that is going to be it. A little bit of fountain diving action. Miracle trying to stop it as best as possible. Miggle just trying to escape on out. Loda will drop off his Agency Immortal, but the damage has been done, and that's not going to be a big deal one way or another. Let's look at the goal graph. We know what's going to happen here. It's just some goofing around. If they dive the fountain too hard, they'll die. But let's look at where this game worked out. I don't know what's bannable here, actually. But, anyway. We do see 20k gold advantage on No Tidehunter. They also are sitting around 15k experience at their climax. So that is pretty much them sitting at the highest potential point. They have so much advantage. They have so many items. The Shiva's Guard, I mean, look at what it would take to bring down this Darkseer. They're going to put out so much damage to here, and he's going to live for the next, like, 10 seconds because they just keep on right-clicking away, and they still can't do enough. So they're burning him down. Soul Catcher helping out a bit, but holy crap, he can live forever. And that's not the kind of thing you want to see when you're trying to stop him from casting off his big cooldowns. If you initiate on him, try to chain stun him up, and he's still going to live on through to pop off his Shivas, his Pike, his Replica, his Vacuum, that's pretty much a lost fight. And so you commit so many resources to one individual, you're going to get dropped. anyways, beyond that, Loda able to just carry his team to victory, has that BKB Mask of Mana drone combo, and has been able to use it to great effect throughout the team fights. So that was fun, and Absolute Legends not having as much because they were completely slaughtered in this one. They were able to do a lot on the top lane. I got to give them credit to their top lane experience. Rise was really great at flanking up and making sure that Admiral Bulldog couldn't overstep his boundaries. Admiral Bulldog is a great lone druid player, but in this situation, he started off the game pretty poorly and ended up being 0-6-6. So by the fact that they were able to commit to him and make sure that he was locked down, a really great circumstance there, but they also had to concede the bottom lane, and Clockwork fared even worse with the amount of punishment that no Tidehunter brought out to him. So that was pretty much it. One announcement that I kind of forgot to make, so I'll let you guys know right now, is that we're actually going to have on the Twitch live stream after the game, this is for Dota TV viewers as well, just check out on the Twitch live stream, we're going to have Ask the Pros. It's a feature that we have, which is just a post-match interview with one of the winning players. We're going to talk to one of the guys in No Tidehunter, possibly Ake, and see their perspective on the game, a little bit insight of what they did right, what they did wrong, and from there we'll be able to also answer your questions. We'll just post them in chat. We might do something with Twitter in the future, but for the moment just put them in the twitch.tv chat after I ask for them, and I'll let you guys know exactly what player you're going to be specifically interrogating. And then from there, we'll pretty much get to check out and look at a little bit of what their perspective was on the game. So we'll get that set up after the game, and I'll figure out who exactly that we're going to be working with. But that is going to be on the Twitch live stream, twitch.tv/thepremierleague. And that is pretty much our end of the professional games. It was a best-of-3 series, but with no Tidehunter taking it 2-0, shutting them out and taking the series. So another point on the board for No Tidehunter, and showing that with their new roster, they were able to accomplish quite a bit. EGM working out really nicely with some great initiation through Disruptor. So well played to them. They definitely deserve both those wins. Very convincing. But we're going to be going on into the post-match interview in just a couple minutes. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the presentation here. This was the Premier League. I'm Blaze, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow at the very least. Bringing you guys a game. I'll double check it, and it is actually going to be a game between Virtus.pro and Fnatic, another best-of-3 series at 20 o'clock Central European Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That is the time that we do all of our matches, best-of-3, Sunday through Thursday, throughout the rest of the season. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll get on into, again, the Ask the Pros interview with one of the No Tidehunter players in just a couple minutes.